The gentleman from New York.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules and pass the resolution H-Con Res. 353, expressing the sense of the Congress that the United States should take a leading role in implementing the decisions made at the Earth Summit as amended.
The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Concurrent Resolution 353, concurrent resolution expressing the sense of the Congress that the United States should assume a strong leadership role in implementing the decisions made at the Earth Summit by developing a national strategy to implement Agenda 21 and other Earth Summit agreements through domestic policy and foreign policy, by cooperating with all countries to identify and initiate further agreements to protect the global environment, and by supporting and participating in a high-level United Nations Sustainable Development Commission.
Out of these troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order, can emerge, a new era, freer from the threat of terror, stronger in the pursuit of justice, and more secure in the quest for peace. And today that new world is struggling to be born, a world quite different from
plan. That's why we're shipping our jobs overseas. That's why we're shipping our factories overseas. That's why they're running up the price of your oil and gas and electricity. It's to impoverish the American people, to raise your living standards to that of the Bolivian peasant. We want equality for everybody but the ruling elite. And that, of course, is exactly what Plato wrote about. The Earth Charter today is kept in a counterfeit of the Ark of the Covenant, because you see, the Earth Charter, according to Maurice Strong and Mikhail Gorbachev, is to be the new 10 Commandments for the world. You can go up on the internet and verify everything we're saying. The Ark of Hope has been built. It is a satanic counterpart of the Ark of the Covenant. And there, the scroll, they write the Earth Charter on a scroll, just like the 10, well, of course, the 10 Commandments are on stone tablets, but there really is an occult hierarchy that rules the world, and I hope that you'll get these. They're very economical. We put them together, get one or get all three of them together, and then help us get the information out. We are not involved in a political battle between right and left, Democrat and Republican, conservative and liberal. We're involved in a spiritual battle that is being played out on a political, ideological, cultural, economic, educational battlefield, and tragic is that most people have no idea what is really going on today.
At its core, Agenda 21 is about control. Control over land, natural resources, and entire populations. It seeks to control the air by regulation of carbon emissions, the ground by sustainable development, and the sea through environmental regulations. Officially stated, Agenda 21 is a comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations system, governments, and major groups in every area in which human impacts on the environment. Because being human will always have an impact on the environment, Agenda 21 paves the way for extraordinary UN control. When you boil it down, there are 9 basic tenets of Agenda 21. Move citizens off private land and into urban housing. Create vast wilderness spaces inhabited by large carnivores. Eliminate cars and create walkable cities. Support chosen private businesses with public funds for sustainable development. Make policy decisions that favor the greater good over individuals. Drastically reduce the use of power, water, and anything else that creates carbon pollution. Use bureaucracies to make sweeping decisions outside of democratic processes. Increase taxes, fees, and regulations. And finally, implement policies meant to incentivize a reduced population. Finally, implement policies meant to incentivize a reduced population.
The Earth just cannot handle the sheer number of humans who live here. Something has to give. And I believe that it's up to us who have lived a good life to make sure that our children will have the opportunity to live good lives too. I have lived a good life.
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 Finally, implement policies meant to incentivize a reduced population.
Every year, millions of imperfect babies are born, destined for a life of struggle and hardship. But it is the rest of us who pay the ultimate cost. Billions of dollars that could be used to better society are instead wasted on the malformed. There must be a better way, and there is. Agenda 21 is coming soon.
Finally, implement policies meant to incentivize a reduced population.
For millions of years, this lake thrived. But now it is dying. Poisoned by humans who put themselves above nature. It's time to stop the killing. It's time to heal our planet.
Finally, implement policies meant to incentivize a reduced population.
It's time to remove your footprint. Agenda 21 is coming soon.
Controlling our every impact on the environment means controlling every aspect of our lives. What we eat, how we travel, where we live, how we live. But no is still an option.
It is 1,152 pages. I don't know how many of you want to read an 1,152-page publication, but we have it summarized here in very, very short order. And they basically talk about the certain things that are not sustainable, like monotheistic beliefs, like the Christian belief, and like the Muslim belief, and like the Jewish belief. They're just not sustainable. In other words, they're going to have to do away with, do you know, a better way than to have a major war where you pit the Christians against the Muslims? I don't know how many of you remember watching the newspaper, watching television yesterday, where the Pope had made some remarks about the Muslim faith, and suddenly all throughout the Muslim world are calling for a jihad against the Pope and against the Christian world. And you must understand, because the media is controlled in America, and the media is controlled in the United States by 5 mega corporations. You can get in touch with my ministry, and you can, of course, get all the information on this yellow sheet we have in the back there, how to get our catalog. The book is called The New Media Monopoly. There are 5 mega corporations that control all of the 90% of the media in the United States, and they all tie into the Council on Foreign Relations. Isn't that a coincidence? No, none of this is coincidence. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes are formed, our ideas are suggested largely by men we have never heard of. How they changed these terms. It used to be we had Christian charity, and then we had welfare, and now we have entitlements. So it is that we have migrants in this country. They will tell you there's 11 to 12 million. The figure is probably closer to 20 to 30 million illegal immigrants in this country that have been allowed to come in. It was in 1965 we began to change our immigration laws. Who was instrumental in that? A great American patriot named Teddy Kennedy, Senator Teddy Kennedy. For those of you who believe that there is a difference between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, let me point out that in the year 2003, the Bush Foundation, headed by George Herbert Walker Bush and George W. Bush, gave their Man of the Year reward and, whatever appointment was, a selection and gift to that great American patriot, Teddy Kennedy. Wait a minute, I thought he was the bad guy. No, Teddy Kennedy couldn't get his No Child Left Behind legislation through. George Bush got it through. Teddy Kennedy couldn't get the drug Medicare bill through. George Bush got that through. All the programs were carried out today are the programs of the radical left, being carried out by the conservative Christians in this country, and members of our House and Senate who are members of the Republican Party are going right along with the president, because if they don't, they won't get any money from the party leadership when they come up for re-election. But in 1965, they changed the immigration laws in America. Before that, we had the McCarran Immigration Act, which had predominant immigration from from Europe, and Teddy Kennedy said, no, we've got to change this law, we shouldn't discriminate, we ought to let anybody come to America, and it's not going to change the demographics of our country. Well, of course, Teddy Kennedy worried in about $5 to buy a cup of coffee anywhere in America, because he was simply lying to the American people. And they began to change the demographics, and so by 1986, they told us we had a million illegal immigrants in America. And what was the solution to the problem of illegal immigration in America? We'll make them all legal. There's only 1 million illegal immigrants in America, but we're going to pass new laws. We're going to reinforce the laws on the border. We're going to make it illegal for any employer federal crime to hire illegal immigrants. They have a catch and release program where they apprehend people at the border and they immediately release them to come back on their own recognizance for a deportation hearing, and you never guess what happens. Most of them don't show up. So they passed these laws in 1986, and they made the 1 million illegal immigrants legal, but there weren't 1 million, there were 3 million, and they lied. They simply lied to the American people, and that was under Ronald Reagan. And then in 1996, they passed another series of immigration laws, but they refused to enforce border security. They've maintained the check and release program until about a month ago, and now they say that they've done away with that. They're going to start, keeping the people that they catch. You realize they only catch 1 in 4 if you are a Mexican national, while you are immediately taken across the border and released so you can come back in again. If you are a foreign national, while you're, of course, given a schedule for a deportation hearing. Now remember, they're only catching 1 in 4. The other 3 get in, free, and once they get in, they become eligible in many states for welfare, for free education, for free medical care, for even subsidized housing. And they're actually subsidizing housing for people they know who are here illegal. The IRS knows who many of the people are because they're working, and they are paying Social Security taxes and using phony IRS numbers or Social Security numbers. They know exactly where they are, and they're refusing to enforce the laws. Why? Because they want to destroy the integrity of our nation. They want to flood it with people from other countries. They want a multilingual, multicultural society so they can play one group against another, so they can bankrupt our nation, so they can transfer our wealth to other nations. Now, if that sounds incredible, you need to read the Earth Charter, and we actually have it here. And you read it, point 10a says, equitable distribution of wealth within nations and between nations. Equitable distribution of wealth within nations means that they're going to redistribute your wealth to other people. They know exactly what they're doing. Now, you have to understand, they're not going to redistribute the wealth of the wealthy. It is simply people like you and me that they're going to redistribute the wealth on. But between nations, they're going to transfer America's wealth to other nations. That is why they have a planned program of sending our jobs overseas, our factories overseas, and bringing people into this country under special visas to take our high-paying jobs, only, of course, they're going to get low pay for it, but the plan is to impoverish the people of this nation, to destroy our pension structure, and to destroy the infrastructure of this once great nation. You need to read the plan. It's all there. In the Global Biodiversity Assessment, which came out of the Second Earth Summit, which was held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992, and Michael has referred to that, and we recommend, but we have a summary of that here. And then, of course, you need to read the Earth Charter. It's all there. I mean, it's public knowledge, but you're never going to hear about it because the media is controlled, and your minds are molded, your ideas are formed, your taste suggested largely by men you have never heard.
Out of these troubled times, our 5th objective, a new world order can emerge, a new era, freer from the threat of terror, stronger in the pursuit of justice, and more secure in the quest for peace. An era in which the nations of the world East and West, North and South, can prosper and live in harmony. 100 generations have searched for this elusive path to peace, while 1,000 wars raged across the span of human endeavor. And today that new world is struggling to be born. A world quite different from the one we've known. A world where the rule of law supplants the rule of the jungle. A world in which nations recognize the shared responsibility for freedom and justice. A world where the strong respect the rights of the weak.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law. Such is a world worthy of our struggle and worthy of our children's future. And now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order. In the words of Winston Churchill, a world order in which the principles of justice and fair play protect the weak against the strong. A world where the United Nations, freed from Cold War stalemate, is poised to fulfill the historic vision of its founders. And that's why I wanted to speak to you today about the new world taking shape around us, about the prospects for a new world order now within our reach. In the coming weeks, I'll be talking in some detail about the possibility of a new world order emerging after the Cold War. But today, I want to discuss another aspect of that order. You see, as the Cold War drew to an end, we saw the possibilities of a new order in which nations work together. It refers to new ways of working with other nations to deter aggression and to achieve stability. As old threats recede, new threats emerge. The quest for the new world order is in part a challenge to keep the dangers of disorder at bay. We must build on the successes of Desert Storm to give new shape and momentum to this new world order. Only when this transformation is complete will we be able to take full measure of the opportunities presented by this new and evolving world order. The new world order really is a tool for addressing a new world of possibilities. This order gains its mission and shape not just from shared interests, but from shared ideals.
President George Bush has talked time and time again about the new world order, and this is the best chance to begin to establish the new world order, and that's why the stakes are so high.
From 1945 and the end of the war through 1989 and the end of the Cold War, we had a worldview. Republican and Democratic presidents alike, from Harry Truman to George Bush, stood for freedom and stood for certain propositions that would make America strong and healthy and grow the middle class and shrink poverty and stand against communism. And after 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order, and instead it looks like we got a lot of disorder. And we still, and after 9/11, we've been more sensitive.
But it is the awareness itself that will drive the change. And one of the ways it will drive the change is through global governance and global agreements.
We have it. and they're working, many of them, at the highest levels of our government today, to bring about a one-world government who will be ruled by the Prince of Darkness. Well, I'm reminded of what Martin Luther wrote many years ago, because Martin Luther recognized this same battle that we're engaged in today. And he wrote, "A mighty fortress is our God, a bulwark never failing. Our helper he amid the flood of mortal ills prevailing. For still our ancient foe doth seek to work us woe. His craft and power great, but armed with cruel hate, on earth is not his equal. Though the cause of evil prospers," and this is James Russell Lowell, "though the cause of evil prospers, yet his truth alone is strong. Though our portion be the scaffold, and upon the throne be wrong. But that scaffold sways the future, for in the dim unknown standeth God within the shadows, keeping watch above his own." And so our plea to you, ladies and gentlemen, is become informed, become involved, because you're involved whether you want to be or not. And there comes a time when you'll either stand up and say no, or you'll be on your knees saying yes. There really is a plan for world genocide. There really are evil and wicked people out there. And there really is a God in heaven who will bless a nation that, of course, adheres to him. But remember those words of Thomas Jefferson, that God who gave us life gave us liberty. But can the liberty of a nation be secure when the conviction has been forgotten that liberty is the gift of God? I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, that his justice will not sleep forever.
Now, much has been said by the Secretary of State and others about a new world order, about a defining moment in history. I have no doubt about the potential of this moment to be defining in terms of history, but that definition can be negative as well as positive. And how negative or positive it will be will depend on what kind of new world order we really create. Can it truly be said that the United States of America, trading off better treatment to China for an abstention on a vote, cozying up to Syria with its record of support for terrorism, or making promises to other countries in exchange for a hold your coat, you go ahead and take the risks and casualties endorsement, can it truly be said that these create a new world order? Can it really be said that we're building a new world order when it's almost exclusively the United States who will be fighting in the desert? Not alone, but almost. Displaying pride and impatience and implementing what essentially amounts to a Pax Americana. Is that a new world order? Can it really be said that this is a true new world order when it lacks a true United Nations collective security effort with the full measure of international cooperation and burden sharing which that should carry?
With the end of the Cold War, Henry Kissinger pointed out in his superb book on diplomacy, he said, "None of the most important countries which must build a new world order have had any experience with the multi-state system that is emerging. Never before has a new world order had to be assembled from so many different perceptions or on so global a scale. Nor has any previous order had to combine the attributes of the historic balance of power system with global democratic opinion and the exploding technology of the contemporary period." That was written in 1994, and it may be even more relevant today.
As I've told you before, because I love it so much, they also created the Great Seal of the United States. And that Great Seal of the United States has on it, Novus Order Seclorum, a new order for the centuries, for the ages, forever.
There is a chance for the President of the United States to use this disaster to carry out what his father, a phrase his father used, I think, only once, and hasn't been used since, and that is a new world order.
During the conflict with Saddam Hussein, which he handled so superbly in a short-term sense, but he kept talking about a new world order. And then President Bush, at the end of that war, promised he would give 4 graduation addresses, 4 commencement addresses, describing that new world order and what America's role was going to be in it. It turned out he gave one of those addresses and canceled the other 3 and talked about something else. That's what, because they weren't.
And this present window of opportunity during which a truly peaceful and interdependent world order might be built will not be here open for too long.
You believe deeply in your system, and we believe just as deeply in our system. It is not our common beliefs that have brought us together here, but our common interests and our common hopes. The interest that each of us has to maintain our independence and the security of our peoples, and the hope that each of us has to build a new world order in which nations and peoples with different systems and different values can live together in peace, respecting one another while disagreeing with one another, letting history rather than the battlefield be the judge.
It's past the point of talking. We know historically that the global governance the sort of agenda to these issues is very hard to try and, with all the best intentions, it's very hard to actually activate. We're seeing that right now. We're seeing a lot of fragmentation going on in Copenhagen, a lot of different agendas pulling in different directions. And
the closest we came to the dream was when we were doing THX and everybody was writing their scripts. Everybody was hanging out at the pool table drinking cappuccinos and waxing philosophically about the New World Order and everything.
Type 1 civilization is a connected civilization, a single global culture, a single global language, global communication, global politics. We see this beginning now. We see it emerging all around us. The European countries are binding together slowly, forming the EU. NAFTA has been formed in North America. Eventually, we will see the rise of a single world government. We will see a single economy.
2009 is also the first year of global governance, with the establishment of the G20 in the middle of the financial crisis. The climate conference in Copenhagen is another step towards the global management of our planet. Our mission, our presidency, is one of hope, supported by acts and by deeds.
Leaders come together and establish a framework for global governance, not a world government, but sensible governance. If these measures are enacted and we continue to move forward with the G20 process, we will have the kind of global governance that is necessary to ensure the stability and transparency of markets in a way that gives us the benefits of a globalized market economy without the enormous risks that
UN Agenda 21 has been transformed into UN Agenda 2030, 17 common goals to be implemented by nearly 200 countries. The mission: sustainable development, to end poverty, to increase equality, access to clean water, food, electricity, and sanitation. Sounds beneficial for everyone, right? Well, you came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we are going to look at UN Agenda 2030 and what it means for you. Let's begin with the conspiracy theory. It wasn't long ago when UN Agenda 21 was considered to be a conspiracy theory. Now, not the policies, the implementation of Agenda 21, but in fact the existence of Agenda 21 was seen as a conspiracy theory. So what? We have documents. So what? They admit it. It's a conspiracy theory. As long as you say that and attach that to any mainstream article, you will always propagate that information. And it seems to be now that times have changed. With the creation of Agenda 2030, it is being promoted in the mainstream media as beneficial for everyone. And that's what I have been noticing. The implementation of Agenda 2030 is on a global scale. However, it is implemented at the local level.
For everyone here tonight not familiar with Agenda 21, I would suggest that this is the beginning of your learning curve, not the end.
Good evening, I'm Rosa Corey. I'm the Executive Director of the Post-Sustainability Institute. And I'm glad to be here tonight. It's an important night because we're drawing something out of the shadows. and it's important to talk about it. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy fact. This is Agenda 21. This is the United Nations plan. It's a 300-page, 40-chapter plan, and ICLEI was created in 1990 prior to this plan's adoption to implement United Nations Agenda 21, Sustainable Development worldwide. Sustainable development is a term that was defined by the United Nations, and all of these terms come out of the United Nations. Smart growth is part of the United Nations Agenda 21. Your general plan elements are designed in accordance with United Nations Agenda 21 principles. The plan restricts your choices, it limits your ability to govern yourself, and it takes away your freedom. This seems like a rhetorical statement, but it really is not. This is actually what this plan does. And using the cover of environmental concern, our private property rights and our civil rights have been diminished, and they will continue to be so unless we call a halt to it. ICLEI is the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, but it changed its name so that you wouldn't know that it's international. It seems like all of these things seem like they sound so good. Sustainable development, green, vibrant, walkable, bikeable. You know, how could you be against that? But really, when you know about this plan, it is really very serious.
Did you know that there's regional plans all across the nation right now that are being rolled out that are all exactly the same? They're all in alignment with the principles of UN Agenda 21. And ICLEI is their agent. An NGO is an affiliate of the United Nations. That's what that means. They're not part of this government. They're outside, coming from outside of our nation. And they don't have the best interests of Americans at heart.
What they're going for is 11 regions in North America, not states, not our 50 states, 11 regions. They will be appointing people to do the planning and the running and the operation of those regions through the United Nations.
The International Council of Local Environment is an oxymoron to me. What does the International Council have to do with our local environments?
On the ICLEI website, it says 200 local governments from 43 countries convened at our inaugural conference, the World Congress of Local Governments for Sustainable Future at the United Nations in New York. I think there's a connection. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Mora?
I am patently against ICLEI and Agenda 21, and I urge the city, as a resident, to withdraw your membership. That's not to say give up your green programs. That's not to say give up striving to have a better environment. But disconnect from this organization. It is not good.
This isn't about green. Green is just the guise. Green is just the guise until we open our eyes and realize that control is how the people that you're working for really roll.
Here is the Local Agenda Planning Guide, ICLEI. Local Agenda Planning Guide, ICLEI. If you open this up, it's from Maurice Strong. It talks about the United Nations. It talks about Agenda 21. This is it. You cannot deny that they are not connected.
Neither the United States Congress nor the American people have voted for Agenda 21's implementation.
They are there to indoctrinate people on the local level and bring it up through the state until it's a reality. And these people are all here tonight because they sense the same jeopardy. I hope that you understand this is bigger than all your tree questions and your trash proposals or anything else.
Standing there with my people, they were bombed, and I was just targeted like them. And as elected president, official in charge of their protection, I couldn't do anything about it. But the point here is, it's not about me, it's about the idea of freedom. It's about the future of the whole region. It's about the future of Europe and a new world order.
The transatlantic partnership was never just the foundation of our security. It was the foundation of our way of life. It was forged in experience of the most bitter and anguished kind. Out of it came a new Europe, a new world order, a new consensus as to how life should and could be lived. The pieces are in flux. Soon they will settle again. Before they do, let us reorder this world around us.
I think a new world order is emerging, and with it the foundations of a new and progressive era of international cooperation. We have resolved that from today we will together manage the process of globalization to secure responsibility from all and fairness to all. And we've agreed that in doing so, we will build a more sustainable and more open and a fairer global society.
All these new challenges are bringing together about the biggest restructuring we have ever seen, not just of the global economy, but of the global order as a whole. And 200 years ago, a famous British Foreign Secretary said that the new world had been called into existence to redress the balance of the old. In 1990, another old world ended, dominated by the Cold War, and people talked then, in 1990, of a new world order. What they actually meant then was a new political order. And what was not foreseen then, but is obvious now from everything that we see and do, what we experience in every day of our life, is the sheer scale and speed and scope of globalization. And it's only now that we can begin to understand that the world order that globalization brings and what it's going to look like, it's driven forward now not just by the balance of military strength, the Cold War times, or ordinary political power. It's being driven forward by a seismic shift in economic power that we see around us. But what does the New World Order mean for countries like ours who are looking to succeed? I suggest that the countries that are going to succeed are those that combine flexibility, free trade, open markets, with proper stewardship of the environment and investment in education, infrastructure and innovation. And the question for us is how we meet and master all these challenges to ensure that Britain enhances its competitiveness in the process and realises what I believe is our destiny of success in this new world order. So, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, a new world is emerging. It is a new world order with significantly different and radically new challenges for the future.
Signed by President George H.W. Bush is a soft treaty, and every U.S. president since 1992 has reaffirmed its goals.
Well, yeah, what we're facing here is fundamentally a change in the way our government operates.
It's so overwhelmingly out in the open, you can't believe that nobody else is looking.
Keep this quote in mind. The opening preamble of the 2030 Agenda document says, quote, all countries and all stakeholders, that's the NGOs, acting in collaborative partnership will implement this plan. There's no question here now, it's not just a suggestion, they will do this.
When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order.
But today, with Asia already outproducing Europe, India and China are clearly becoming part of our new order.
The world that maybe some people dreamt of at that conference back in Bournemouth, when it looked as if maybe history would end, that liberal democracy would triumph, that free market economics would slowly progress, and we'd have a new world order.
Tim, what do you think America's place in the new world order should be? It's always been seen as the global policeman. But as you said before, you know, it's hard to see with all these military conflicts where the winner and loser lies. What should America be doing
I think
globally?
The global policeman should be the United Nations.
What sort of a financial deal should Obama be seeking to strike when he travels to China next month?
No, I think this would be the time, because you really need to bring China into the creation of a new world order, financial world order.
What do you think the most important thing is for Barack Obama? Obviously, you're here to talk about the anniversary for U.S.-China diplomatic relations, but if you had to say this is going to be the country or the conflict or the place that will define the Obama administration, what would it be?
The president-elect is coming into office at a moment when there are upheavals in many parts of the world simultaneously. You have India, Pakistan, you have the jihadist movement. So he can't really say there is one problem, that it's the most important one. But he can give a new impetus to American foreign policy, partly because the reception of him is so extraordinary around the world. I think his task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity. It isn't just a crisis. There's a need for a new world order, but it has different characteristics in different parts of the world.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order, because the global order is changing again. And the institutions and rules that worked so well in the post-World War II era for decades, they need to be strengthened.
The way we're going to win over the long term is not just militarily. We've got to win over hearts and minds. And what that means is we've got to invest in countries that have no educational infrastructure, have no means for young people to get ahead. We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
I mean, there is a conflict about what the mission is. The United States says that Gaddafi must go. Members of the coalition say this is strictly a humanitarian mission. How can the coalition work together when they can't agree on what the goals are?
What they're going for is 11 regions in North America, not states, not our 50 states, 11 regions. They will be appointing people to do the planning and the running and the operation of those regions through the United Nations.
Neither the United States Congress nor the American people have voted for Agenda 21.
Former President of the United States, George Bush Sr. said, effective execution of Agenda 21 will require a profound reorientation of human society, unlike anything the world has ever experienced. A major shift in the priorities of both governments and individuals, and an unprecedented redeployment of human and financial resources.
The United States government's support for Sustainable Development, Agenda 21, is very clear. In 1992, while the Rio conference was going on, George Bush, then president, was there where he executed the Agenda 21 protocols on behalf of the United States and brought it back to Washington, D.C. Within a year, Bill Clinton, by executive order, no congressional review, established the President's Council for Sustainable Development.
It has been their agenda from 1973, when the Trilateral Commission was formed, to create a new international economic order. That's what they said back then. It was all over their literature. The Trilateral Commission has been the action group that has brought us all this stuff that we're looking at today. They brought us Agenda 21 at the Rio conference in the first place, controlling resources. They want to take the resources away from people like you and me, and even governments, and even local governments and state governments and federal governments. They want to take the resources away and put them into a global trust for the common good. This is a master scheme. This is the end game, if you will. We don't see it quite yet, but you can clearly see it if you look at the UN closely enough.
This is Agenda 21. The issue is so vast, so overwhelming, that people rightfully have trouble wrapping their heads around it. It encompasses every aspect of our lives, from housing to jobs to education to healthcare, to even gun control.
And the goal of Agenda 21 is one world government and total control from a central unit. America, the United States of America, is really under attack right now.
The United Nations rebooted Agenda 21, giving it a new name. It is now the 2030 Agenda. The 17 goals of the 2030 Agenda include details on controlling food supplies, corporate food factories over family farms. And you know, if you control the food, you control society.
It is the agenda for the 21st century you're living in today. For a brave new world where everything that you cherished and held true will no longer exist.
Agenda 21 defines itself as the comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations systems.
Sustainable development is the philosophy designed to bring human beings across the globe under the full control of a narrow human elite.
It's a 40-chapter document to basically control the world. It's based entirely on socialist control mechanisms.
Sustainable developers have designed a global movement coordinated through a global to local action plan to create world government in accordance with certain objectives. The focus of sustainable development is the abolition of private property, societal undermining of the family, and abandonment of the constitutional protection of unalienable rights as described in the Declaration of Independence.
Here in this country, the wealthiest nation on earth, we're still working every day to perfect our union and to be more equal and more just, and to treat the most vulnerable members of our society with value and concern. And that's why today I am committing the United States to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And as long as I am president, and well after I'm done being president, I will keep fighting for the education and housing and healthcare and jobs that reduce inequality and create opportunity here in the United States and around the world.
United Nations headquarters, which was built in 1945 and financed largely by John D. Rockefeller. Inside UN headquarters is an ominous meditation room. The custodian of the meditation room is Lucis Trust Company. At one time, the Lucis Trust was located at 666 United Nations Plaza and was formally named LUCIFER Publishing Company. The Rockefeller-funded UN meditation room is 33 feet long and 18 feet wide. 18 feet is 6 plus 6 plus 6. The small, dimly lit, windowless room was built in the shape of a pyramid that is laying on its side. At the center of the room is a 4-foot-high, black, casket-shaped stone slab which weighs 6.5 tons and is extremely magnetic and rests on a concrete pillar. The pillar descends beneath the floor into the bedrock and taps into the Earth's hyperdimensional energies to induce a state of altered consciousness. Not far from the meditation room is the United Nations Security Council chamber. This is the emergency room of the UN, where the world leaders meet when there is a threat to peace. They decide the fate of nations. Even though Israel has over 200 uninspected nuclear weapons and has violated dozens of resolutions, no sanctions are ever imposed because of the United States' veto powers. Notice the giant mural that towers over the Security Council room. The central focus of the UN mural is the phoenix bird that has risen. The phoenix bird is a symbol of Lucifer. Egyptians believed that the phoenix symbolized a god who rose to heaven in the form of a morning star like Lucifer after his fire immolation of death and rebirth. Notice that the phoenix bird is not standing above his own ashes. He is standing above his old skin. Like a snake, he has shed his old skin and is revealing himself as God at the center of the mural. At the top left, there is a church steeple without a cross. The missing cross symbolizes the death of Christianity. Below, a woman receives the rays of the sun god, while the man in front of her plays Pan's flute. To their right are two pyramid symbols and people joined together by a long blue serpent-like cloth. Below the risen phoenix, a sword is driven through a dragon beast. This represents the killing of old beliefs and religions that depicted Lucifer as a beast. The New World religion worships him as beautiful. Behind the phoenix, the ghostly figures of the walking dead are stepping into a void. They symbolize depopulation. On the right panel, the pale horse from the book of Revelation is the bringer of death to humanity through weapons, hunger, and disease. The man is releasing him. The chained black man represents slavery, while the top panel of the mural shows a technologically advanced white race who control industry, art, and science. In this post-apocalyptic mural, the military man standing on the tail of the beast represents worldwide military power. He tips his helmet to the elite, who are climbing out from underground cities where they safely hid from the apocalypse. In the main oval panel above the phoenix bird, a woman is holding flowers. She is the bride in a wedding ceremony. Who are these newlyweds that are kneeling submissively beneath the serpent in the overhead tree? Could the newlyweds symbolize William and Kate? The serpent in human form is tempting the little girl Eve, who accepts the apple. On the right side of the top panel, a reptilian green creature with scaly skin is dancing with a naked woman while musicians entertain him. The general message of the UN's Phoenix Rising mural is that humanity is stepping into a new Luciferic reality. Beneath this disturbingly prophetic mural, world leaders make global decisions that affect the lives of nearly 7 billion people. What's hard for most people to grasp is that our elected government leaders are involved in an apocalyptic scheme to enslave the masses under a world government dictatorship. How do these leaders sleep at night? How do they live with themselves?
And no one else ever, and I got my teaching permit. And I taught college for 3 years full time. During the day, and I worked full time at night at A.O. Smith as a tool and die welder. What I'm point I'm making here is, if you have knowledge, knowledge is control, and control, you can do what you want. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, if you go through life and you have questions about syntax or about chemistry or about physics or about medicine, about just about anything, and you don't know what to do, I have a cure for cancer. I can cure any cancer you have. I don't care who you are. I can cure your arthritis in 48 hours. No problem. High blood pressure, eat an ounce of popcorn every day. There's a little tiny molecule in popcorn that will cure your high blood pressure and your artery problem in 14 days. You'll have 105/70 blood pressure. Yes? Throat cancer? 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Atmospheric chamber, 2 atmospheres. That's a barometric chamber used for deep sea divers. Keep you at 32 pounds per square inch air pressure. 28 pounds of air pressure. Stops your blistering at 105 degrees Fahrenheit. IV drip, put the person to sleep. Use sodium pentothal to knock you out for 125 hours at 105 degrees. You will have tubes in, tubes out for waste, nutrients in. You'll wake up in 5 days. The throat cancer will be dead because no cancer can reproduce itself under fever. It's a 100% cure, no side effects. Mayo Clinic, Minnesota. Mayo Clinic, Minnesota does it. So does Atlanta, Georgia, Mayo Clinic. Only 2 procedures. It was discovered in the American Indians have been doing the sweat tent for 400 years, curing cancer. Remember, they go into the sweat tent. They hallucinate, see the Great Spirit for 72 hours. You hallucinate at 105 degrees. As long as you're in hallucination, your brain is at 105 degrees, and so is your body. Because it's in a steam environment of hot rocks with steam, you don't dehydrate. You're inhaling enough water to replenish your sweating. And you drink fluid, all heat. And it's done for 72 hours. That cures about 99%. Some of your things like breast cancer, ovarian cancer, throat cancer, brain cancer. 105 degrees, 125 hours. 2 atmospheres pressure. Oxygen level is 16.8, not 14. 16.8. Because you got to boost the oxygen by 2%. Creates a oxidized blood chemistry. And no cancer can reproduce itself under fever. 105 degrees stops the reproduction, and no cancer cell of the 1,800 different cancers that exist can exceed beyond 125 hours. They will all die, 100% will die without reproducing, and your body will be purged. The human cell can go 90 days at 105 degrees. You only got to do 5. They will have no side effects. Nope, you're asleep under sodium pentothal. Your whole body is completely kept asleep. You have a heart pacer to hooked up, so your heart is electronically monitored and timed so that there's no interruption of your heartbeat. And use an anesthesiologist to create the chemical IV drip that will create an artificial fever. The atmosphere of the barometric chamber is also heated to 105 degrees, so it's stable, both internal and external.
But he does not have any money. He's still paying hospital bill that he accumulated when he had an accident earlier.
It's not an excuse for murder. So I'll give you the cure. You go to the Mayo Clinic, they'll take care of it. Is it a child?
He's old.
Oh, because if it happens to your children, the Shriners Hospital in Chicago will take care of that for children that have cancer or birth defects.
So would they take care of him?
They may if he's poor, but Mayo Clinic will probably take him in if he applies for it.
He's also hemophiliac.
It's a 5-day cure. So my recommendation is go to Mayo Clinic, explain your situation, and you might qualify. Obamacare might kick in. else. Popped white rice corn. It's only found in white rice popcorn. It's one, but when it can penetrate through the cells of a human being, and it will go in and will clean out the plaque that causes high blood pressure. In 2 weeks, white rice popcorn. Air pop it, put as much butter and salt on as you want, has no effect. Popcorn neutralizes cholesterol in the bloodstream. And you'd be right back to normal. Don't have to take your blood pressure. Oh, that's another thing. Anybody on Tylenol PM, and you know this person, might be a senior citizen, Tylenol PM and high blood pressure medicine causes Alzheimer's in 5 to 10 days. You won't be able to find your way back to your house if you're on that combination of chemicals. So don't do it. You can take regular Tylenol, but don't take Tylenol PM. Any PM medicines mixed with high blood pressure medicine will wipe out your memory. And if you're in that condition, you're going to wind up in a nursing home, and there's nothing wrong with you. As soon as you stop taking it takes about 5 days to flush your system. Put a little baking soda, half a teaspoon a day, and neutralize that, and you'll be back to normal. Yes? Sure. Even though he sold the property, he can still go back after his caretaker fees, his guardian fees from the bank, because he was never paid that. They'll adjust. The amount of money can be adjusted for any monies he may have taken out in the form of second mortgages, refinances, stuff like that. Those all get worked out after the fact. But fraud is still fraud. And the U.S. Attorney's Office is looking at $20 million a pop everywhere for one of these files, so they'll cooperate. Otherwise,